Do you want to talk about Tim Rogers? Because I did some research, but yeah, you talk.
Yeah, recently he was a guest on this podcast. I don't even know what this podcast is. I just saw it because it's Tim Rogers. So he has his own YouTube channel, actionbutton.com. He got famous for his like really long reviews. The most famous one I think is this Tokimeki Memorial, which is a 6-hour review of this dating sim. It's really well written and really well researched, and it's autobiographical, and he puts a lot of production value into it, almost too much production value, where he's like shooting his talking head segments with a red camera. It's like it's totally unnecessary, but he's doing it because he had actionbutton.com many years ago, which was like a written review site, and his YouTube channel was these long form video essays. I mean, he did like Pac-Man, he did Doom, and he did these like pretty much like one after another. And then this Tokimeki Memorial one really popped off, and I think since then he's just spent more time thinking about his reviews, so like it could be like a year until his next review, and he's been making them longer. I'm not really sure if that's really the best thing. I kind of like his shorter reviews better. I think because of that 6-hour one, he's like thinking like, oh, I have to make the next one bigger and grander, and so he doesn't make content all the time. It's kind of like JonTron, where it's like, oh, he made something, let's check it out. And so when this popped off, I thought it was kind of interesting, because what it is, it's episode 360 of this podcast, and he did a top 36 to be numerically consistent with that number of Xbox 360 games. And what I found interesting was he just wrote a script.
I wrote a script.
And he filmed himself just reading the script. Basically, no retakes.
0 detours, deviations, alterations, or redos.
And
he's on camera reading, yeah,
on camera reading it, and then Slobs just put footage that he's talking about while he's talking.
So basically, in terms of effort, the opposite of what you've come to know him for.
Yeah, and that's what I kind of like, and I thought it was really like interesting and good because of that.
Yeah.
You can tell he's a good, like really good writer, and his perspective is super unique because when the Xbox 360 came out, he was living in Japan, and during that time, Microsoft was just throwing money around Japan to get developers to make Xbox 360 titles. So he's mostly talking about things like that. So it's a lot of anime games that I don't really care about. But his perspective he makes his perspective interesting, because he used to write for Kotaku. He would make these things called like improvised reviews, where he would just like pick a topic and he would basically improvise the review right off the top. And I thought those were really good too. And so it's like, I kind of like when he is more free flowing, more spontaneous, and when he had a corporate master telling him he had to make content at a basis, he was kind of creative about it. But now that he's his own master, he takes all the time in the world, apparently.
Seems like an easy way to give people a little bit more of his creative attention when he's between huge. I mean, that's always the YouTube challenge, is like, while I'm between the more produced stuff, how do you hear from me? And some YouTubers, he's one of them, don't normally sweat it. Like H-Bomber guy, it's like he might come out with one thing a year or something.
Yeah.
It's just like, you'll wait, and when my thing comes out, it'll be a big event view.
He has a Patreon. I don't know if he's like putting a bunch of content in there. I have no idea. And I don't know. I think he probably does streaming. A lot of people just get into the streaming groove, and
Jesus, he has 7,985 patrons. I thought ours was pretty good. We have like 370 or something.
So what were your thoughts?
Well, I had never seen Tim Rogers before. I had heard about him many times. Jason Graves rated him as like a up there as an S tier YouTube gaming guy. I remember you had said something about like the Doom one would be a good like entry point. So I watched 1 hour. If I was Tim Rogers and there were multiple cameras, I'd say 1 hour. 1 hour. And I didn't hate it. I didn't like it. I'll tell you what, because the insights were interesting. He talked about being a Doom poser and being around college roommates and stuff that were, into Doom. And it was an interesting tale he weaved about, it was a personal account with the game. And I got up to the point where he was talking about, like, is it possible to be a completionist around this game with all the WODs and all the whatever. And it was interesting to listen to. It was in 2020. He released this video. It was 3.5 hours. I watched the first hour of it. Dude, that like newscaster reading a horror novel voice needs to fuck off. Well, apparently not. People love him.
I think that's just his voice.
Can't do it. I can't do it. It's too bullshitty. I was, in fact, a Doom poser. There is not a way to play all of Doom that involves playing all of Doom. You know, I can't. Enough. It's this inauthentic, and it drives me crazy. And then I go over to the insert credits one. And he's doing the same shit. He's reading like, I'm like, do you talk like this, like to your wife?
Unfortunately, maybe, probably.
It's obviously a style, and it's not, reading like you're profiling like a murder on Dateline 2020 or something. Maybe you can get away with that for a segment or what. Again, I'm talking purely for myself. The guy's obviously very, very popular for some reason. But 3.5 hours, 7 hours, whatever the fuck, you're talking like that in a circle. I shouldn't address him directly, but I know that Jason Graves is watching this and he's just thinking that this is the biggest L take of my life.
We should get him on.
But I'll say, not for nothing, I really enjoy listening to Jason talk about stuff because it actually sounds like it's authentically Tim Rogers' writing is authentic, I think. But
yeah, I think his style I can overlook because I really like his writing.
Yeah,
and
I get that.
And so because I like the autobiographical portions, I think that really speaks to me. I think I'm in it for the weave. I like the weave.
The weave. He makes it all the way through the whole weave, and he weaves it back in.
He weaves it back in. He brings it back in, and then you feel really good when he brings it back in. I can tell you that much.
I said, this guy Tim Rogers, we don't always love the way he talks, but
we don't like when he points to the other camera. We don't like when he does that.
He doesn't need to turn to camera and turn to B camera and then back to A camera. But we love his writing. I like when Trump braces for impact. It's because he doesn't actually know what to say next. He hasn't formulated the next words, but he's pretty good at not saying and ah. So he's like, we love it. He just forgot what he was going to say.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.